In fact, we've got all of this recording.
Great. Lucky us. I mean, rather have more than none. Amazing. Well, I do say all the time that really, I know we're teachers and we have students, but we're actually just all learners. We're just all learning. We're learning to teach. We're learning to create together, and the learners are learning. We're really just learning all the time, aren't we?
Whether you decide to go for right hand practice, left hand practice, hands together practice, just 4 bars practice, play it an octave lower, play it an octave higher, just practice it, just do it, and find some way to vary your practice to keep you interested in wanting to do more practice. Practice, practice, practice.
Welcome to the How to Harp podcast, where your harp, your journey are always front and centre. I'm Heather Downie, harpist and founder of How to Harp, your online space for expert guidance and endless inspiration. Each week, we are here to empower, inspire and encourage you, whether you're just beginning or many years into your harp adventure. From chats with world-class professionals to real stories from everyday harpists, to practical tips you can use right away. This podcast is all about helping you feel happy, confident and fulfilled with your harp. This is episode 5 of our How to Harp podcast, and in this episode I'm joined by harpist, composer, teacher and community organiser Anna Dunwoodie. Anna is our special guest this month, and we were so lucky to spend lots of time with her on our recent tour of New Zealand. Not only did she organise concerts and workshops for us, but she also opened up her home. William and I stayed with her, and she was the most wonderful host. I especially loved the fresh figs from the garden. So a big thank you to Anna for all her kindness and generosity. In this conversation, we talk about her harp journey, growing up in a small town with very limited access to teachers, her composing and her duo project, Saltwood, and the sight reading books that she co-authored that are now being used by harpists all over the world. We also talk about her incredible role in organising Harp Fest New Zealand and the way she's building a thriving harp community in New Zealand. She finishes by sharing her advice for harp learners everywhere. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with Anna as much as I did. Hello Anna, how are you doing today? It's great to see you.
Hi Heather, I'm good, thank you. It's lovely to see you too.
Oh, good. And you're looking really bright and cheerful. This really lovely autumny colours there. I love your top.
Oh, thank you. We're actually in the middle of winter here, so it's a little bit of a ruse to try and keep the spirits up.
Of course, I forget because we're in autumn here. It's like you've dressed for the weather, but of course, yeah, Southern Hemisphere. Well, Anna, we always like to start our podcasts by you telling us your origin story. So we would love to hear how it all began. How did you get into the harp?
Well, I'm here in New Zealand, so I'm a little further away than perhaps some of your other guests. But in the 80s, when I started becoming interested in the harp as a 10-year-old, there were very few harpists here in New Zealand, and bless my mum, she has supported me hugely all the way through my musical studies. And I think she saw this 10-year-old who went, wow, I love that instrument. And what I'd seen was a young lady singing with her harp, and I was a singer as well. And I think my mum kind of just popped it away in the back of her head and thought, yeah, well, that would really suit my Anna. But she had a quiet look around and realised that harps were really quite rare in New Zealand. And at that point, there might have been 10 or 15 harpists across the whole country. So she made me wait, made me study my other music. I was playing piano and doing singing lessons and playing the guitar. And we lived then in this little town called Thames, which is about 90 minutes from Auckland, our biggest main centre around here. And I'm actually living back in Thames now again, so I've done the full circle. But Mum made me wait and study up hard. And then when I was about 14 or 15, we looked into it again and found a harp teacher in Auckland, and I started going up for weekly harp lessons. Absolutely loved it. Even harps were hard to come by, but by that stage we had a really great New Zealand harp maker, Kim Webby, and his harps are just stunning, and they were becoming a little bit more available, so we were able to hire a harp for a little while. And I loved it. I fell for it well and truly. I used to disappear into my bedroom each night and go and practice my harp, and I just loved it. I still just love it. And studied harp at university, studied performance pedal harp, and then went off and thought, what will I do now? And became a classroom teacher, teaching music and literacy, and then moved completely into general classroom because I found that people were struggling with general literacy, and I kind of felt a bit entitled to be teaching music when people were really struggling with the general classroom stuff. So I kept my music for the sides for me and found that was actually a really good balance. But now I'm teaching all harp and all music, and life is just music.
I mean, it couldn't be better, right? When life is just music.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. So take us back to those early years when you were studying music and then when you started studying harp. What are your earliest influences? What was being played in the house? What music were you listening to and enjoying? And tell us about, what was going on for young Anna when she was really getting into music.
I found out just a few years ago that actually my love of classical music came from my next door neighbour, and my mum listened a lot to the radio, popular music, but my next door neighbour had classical music going the whole time. And when I was really young, like 2 and 3, I used to go up to my neighbour's house. My younger sister had arrived, and to give my mum a bit of time, my neighbour would take me and would do the household chores together and make beds and things like that. And Marcia always had classical music going on in the house, but it's only in the last couple of years that I realised that that's where that came from. Later on, my mum really got into traditional Celtic music and was listening to the Corrie Folk Trio and the Makem and Clancy and people like that. And I loved that stuff, sang along with all of that music. And so there was a mix of popular music as well. So I got the works.
Amazing. And what type of music do you enjoy playing most now on your harp?
I love the Celtic music. I play a lot of my own compositions now, which I think people would say don't sound like traditional Celtic music because they have a New Zealand element about them that's, following the cultural mix here in New Zealand. And, we've all come from the Scots and Irish and English and Welsh and made our own way out here at different stages. But the Kiwi Celt music definitely has a flavour of its own. So I find myself playing a lot of my music, but I do like the traditional Celtic music, and I tend to go for the Scottish music over the Irish music.
Good choice.
Yeah. Well, with my surname, Dunwoodie.
Of course. And so you mentioned there that you're interested in composition. Is that an interest that you had from that young age when you were exploring music even before the harp, or is that something that kind of developed at a later stage?
I think probably from the harp stages, and one of the earlier influences I'm just thinking about now was Andreas Vollenweider and his very layered music. And I remember being fascinated by that and thinking, well, there's this flute part and there's that percussion part and it all weaves together. And so I still have manuscripts from when I was about 15 and 16 where I wrote like Andreas Vollenweider. Well, I did in my head anyway. And some of the tunes aren't that bad. I dip back into these manuscripts every now and then and steal little bits and pieces and develop it in other ways. But yeah, that whole idea of being able to layer music on top of each other and it being quite distinct but also really closely related to each other was probably one of the most influential things in my own composing. And the other thing was the accessibility to music out here, like sheet music and recorded music out here in New Zealand, was really limited when I was a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether young people will understand it now, but we didn't have the internet. There was no internet. There was no YouTube. And so my quiet evenings in my bedroom were spent with my cassette deck player. So that's another thing that young people mightn't understand. You might have to Google that. And rewinding and replaying and frantically writing down bits of music. And strangely enough, I still have those manuscripts as well. I just kept everything and, having to write out my own music from recordings and things because there was no way. We didn't have a teacher to teach traditional music here and we didn't have a source of printed music. Everything came from, at that point, Sylvia Woods in America, and it took about six weeks or so to get here, and it was like Christmas when it arrived.
Amazing. That's so lovely. Well, I think having had this lovely chat about your music, it's time for us to listen to some of that music. And so we've got a track here from you that you've shared. And maybe once we've listened to it, you could tell us about it, what it's all about for you and give us a bit of information about it. But let's have a listen. Lovely. So beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Can you tell us about that track?
It's called Always There, and actually it's probably not the best of stories to tell, but I'll tell it anyway. It's a ghost story. And I had quite a period of dreams about people who had died. My grandmother, two of my uncles who were very dear to me. And I remember waking one morning and thinking, I've had enough of this, because they come into my dreams and it's like you have this great conversation with them, but they're not there when you wake up. And so I was waking feeling quite sad with the loss of these people. So I got up one morning, headed downstairs to my studio, wrote that, telling them that they're always there, but please stop bothering me in my dreams. I like my sleep. So they're always there.
I think that's a lovely story. Great story. I like that one. Nice.
And lovely. It works. It's kept them away.
Perfect. Well, it did its job then, didn't it?
Yeah.
Amazing. So, Anna, I know a lot of our listeners are, of course, harpists and harp learners, and many of them in the How to Harp membership, which is our online learning school, which, of course, you're our guest artist for this month of September, and we're very excited about that. But something we actually talk a lot about in the membership is using your amazing resources for sight reading. So I'm interested in learning why you felt you wanted to create those resources. I mean, the really great thing about them is they take you right back. They start at a level which is really teaching you to sight read. It's so useful. So because it's such a useful resource that we use all the time, it'd be interesting to know why you decided to create that, and then how you went through that process of really making sure that you came from the foundations and built up.
Thanks for asking. That is actually such a huge journey that we went through with the creation of these books. And I co-wrote them with my bestest harp friend, Lisa Williamson. She's 15 years older than me. She was like my big harp sister and the only other person that I knew when I was, or the only other student that I knew when I was playing the harp as a teenager. And it was in 2006 that we suddenly had this idea that both of us had been piano students, and Lisa was a piano teacher as well, that we had these resources for piano students when you're about to sit an exam that, you know, could give you a bit of sight reading. But even those weren't particularly adequate. We felt we needed a lot more. And she and I had both developed our own resources and our own teaching practices. So we got together one weekend and we laid all these bits and pieces of music out on the floor and realized that either we could tuck them away and pack them away nicely and forget about them, or we could undertake to try and get them organized and make a resource that our students and other people could use for progressive sight reading. So we did that. It was around the time that I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. So we would wait till they were away for the weekend with their dad, and she would come up from Hamilton and would lay all these bits and pieces of music out and try and establish an order. We then went back through the Trinity College and Royal School syllabuses and the Australian Music Examination Board syllabus to see what their parameters and criteria were around not only sight reading but technical work and everything, so that we could try and include that into the progressive parts of what we did. And it was really challenging. And Lisa's a very, very organised, disciplined person. And I'm like, wow, let's create a sight reading book. You know, this will be great. And she's like, it'll be 4 chapters and it'll be this and it'll be that. And I learnt so much in the production of this. And it was little things that Lisa did because she was such a disciplined person that I could take on into my practice, and I still use them a lot these days. So aside from the fact that we created these 4 books, which are an amazing resource, I learnt some of the hugest lessons in my professional life from the development of the books. So that was a surprise.
Amazing. Well, I do say all the time that really, I know we're teachers and we have students, but we're actually just all learners. We're just all learning. We're learning to teach. We're learning to create together, and the learners are learning. We're really just learning all the time, aren't we?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And it's great. It's fantastic. I wouldn't have it even any other way.
Yeah, amazing. Great. So that's a really fantastic project, obviously, that you did. But I mean, that was a little while ago now. So can you tell us about what projects you're working on just now? What are you getting your fingers into at the moment?
Oh, it's another biggie. So in 2023, we put on Harpfest NZ, and it was run by Harp Aotearoa Foundation, which I'm the chair of, and I have a very small, very devoted board of 3 other members. And so it was amazing. Harpfest 23 was just amazing. We had it felt like a big harp family gathered together, and yet it was just beyond belief. So we're doing it again. We're doing it in 2026 over Easter, which is April 3 to 6, and incorporating all the best of the events out of Harpfest NZ 23. And they include having international guests, having local guests and Australian guests, and we have a harp competition that runs alongside the festival, concerts, workshops, everything that you'd expect from a harp festival. And it's an amazing venue in Auckland in New Zealand, and yeah, it's going to be just amazing again. It's so exciting.
Wonderful. But a lot of work, and a lot of you giving your time away. You're very generous with your time, and it seems like it's quite important to you to not just share your music and share the harp, but actually build the harp community, not only in New Zealand, but across the world. Is that something that you're really quite passionate about?
Absolutely. Both my parents, my father's not with us anymore, but both of them were great community people and real givers in behind the scenes. And so I think perhaps it's just something I've inherited along the way. But yeah, raising the awareness of the harp in New Zealand has been really important to me. I was in a very isolated position as a child, and until I moved to London in the early 90s and saw everything that was going on over there. And I thought, oh, heck, why can't we have this at home? So it wasn't going to happen without me doing a lot of pushing. And so we've got an amazing harp scene now, and we want to share it with the world.
That's awesome. What an amazing ambition. And talking about community, we've spoken a little bit about the projects that you've done, but of course you play in a duo. So perhaps you could tell us a little bit about your duo project before we listen to a bit of music from that.
So we're called Saltwood, and that's taken from our surnames. My surname Dunwoodie, and Len's surname is Salt, so Saltwood. And actually, one of the things that I really enjoy about playing music with Len is that he has a really busy, full, real job. He's not a musician as a profession, and I see him sit down with his guitar and relax. And you know, it's such a positive thing to see somebody using music for their own enjoyment and escape. And he's really productive with his music. He practices hard, and he likes doing it as a way to get away from his day job, which is the mayor of the Thames Coromandel district. So he's our civic leader, and the pressures and things that come with that are balanced out more with the music, because we don't have the same degree of criticism and negativity that comes with a top job. And, you know, you get people just loving seeing him being a human and being, you know, able to express himself through his music. And they're always surprised when he opens his mouth and sings. So that side of it is really cool. So we both sing. He plays guitar and bass. It came about from a challenge that I was organising another event, and he said to me, well, you should organise a music event. And I said, only if you play in a duo with me. And at that point, I knew him as a banjo player. So I thought, harp and banjo, that could be fun. We actually haven't got there yet. We've just stuck with guitar and harp. But he's a composer as well, and writes songs and a little bit of music. So actually the piece that we're going to hear is one of the pieces that he's written, called Waltz of Ages.
Amazing. Well, let's have a little listen to that, and then you can maybe tell us the story behind this one. Lovely. Oh, you can tell, Len, how beautiful that is from us.
I will. Yeah. The story behind that one, I don't know why he wrote that one. He'd been sitting on it for quite a few years before we started playing as a duo, and he hadn't found the right combination of instruments. He'd actually given it to a pianist to try and make an arrangement, and the pianist came up with some sheet music, which is where I started my arrangement from. And suddenly when we put harp and guitar together, he was really excited because it had ticked all the boxes. It was everything he'd ever imagined. So that was really cool to complete somebody else's compositional dreams as well.
Lovely. And can you tell us a bit about how you and Len work together? Does it tend to be one of you will bring an idea and the other one will go away and work on it, or do you actually work in collaboration in the moment? How do you guys find you work on?
We do a little bit Both, and it's really cool because I have had, in moving to the small town, I have had to change my attitude to how I work with other people, because I don't have a lot of professional musicians here that I can say, hey, let's all bring our music and our stands and our harps and our this, that, and the other, and form an ensemble. I'm working with people who are doing their music as their passion after work, and I play in a pop band as well with the guy who runs the bookshop and the other guy who runs the community centre and the lady who was my interior designer, and they all do it because they love it. And most of these people have not come from a formal music background as I have, so it's released a lot of pressure on me about what I do when I bring my harp into the group. And of course, they have to get over the, oh my God, it's a harp, and just realize that actually I'm a musician having fun with them too. And it was the same working with Len. He was a bit awestruck by having a harp in his music studio. And he comes from a completely self-taught background. So his understanding of what I'm doing was zero to start with, and we just had to slot in with particularly music that he knew first, and getting to do that. But he's a really fast learner, and I make audio tracks for him of new music that I write, and lead sheets and things like that. And he practices in between civic duties and council meetings, and and then we have been doing quite a bit of work together where I just play something and he tries and improvises around it. And I'm not such a great improviser, so the next step is for him to play something and me to try and improvise around it.
Because we're all learning all the time, of course, so that sounds really interesting next step.
Yeah,
lovely. So because some of our learners, well, are interested in going on to perhaps become professional harpists, or even play for family or local care homes or any of these things. And so sometimes it's really helpful for us to have a little bit of an insight into the ups and downs of our professional guest artists. And so I wonder if you could actually give us, first of all, one of the lows of your professional career. I'm sorry that I'm asking you to recount that, but one of the lows, and how you got over that. And then we're going to follow that up with a joyous one of the highs of your career.
I think perhaps one of the lows is feeling like you're at it by yourself the whole time, and that people don't really understand that what you do is a job, and that when you say I've got paperwork to do, it's answering emails about gigs you may or may not do, or students that you can have 15 or 20 emails going back and forwards to, who after all that time decide no, they don't want to, because they don't want to take up the harp because they don't want to cut their fingernails, or something that's actually really shouldn't be a barrier has got in the way, and you've spent a long time engaging in it already. So a lot of energy goes into things that never actually happen, and people never see or hear about, and that's something that you've got to deal with by yourself. So yeah, that'd be a low.
Mm-hmm. But now follow us up with a high. Come on, give us the good stuff.
The high is, it's easy, really. It's every time I sit down with my harp and, get to play the music that I want to play. But realistically, professionally, the high was definitely Harp Fest 2023. I had an amazing team. I had been to a lot of harp festivals before, and I had seen things where I thought we could do it a little bit more easily or a bit more community-minded, and had done things like I picked up all the artists at the airport, because when I had been a guest at some other festivals, the organiser had been the most important and busy people on the weekend that we were there, and I didn't get to see them. So I thought, if I pick up all my guests at the airport, I get to see them all, and I get to connect with them all, and I get to have some time with them. And so all is forgiven if I can't see them over the weekend. And then the other thing that I did, which I would highly recommend to anyone who's organising an event, is to have a right-hand person, your best friend who's there just to follow you around, feed you, water you. Make sure that you actually have matching shoes on. And I had this amazing friend, Rosie, who she's an older friend, and she just hung with me all weekend, checking in and out. And I could say, "Hey, Rosie, can you get the such and such?" And that meant that my weekend and my enjoyment of the whole event was improved because I had Rosie's support there the whole time. I mean, I guess other people could use a husband, but I don't have one of those, so or a boyfriend. And so yeah, if you don't have one of those, get a Rosie who can just help you out and be there to support you. That really made a big difference in how it all ran.
Amazing. That sounds wonderful. Thank you, Rosie. It sounds like she did a really good job.
Yeah.
So we're really excited that you are joining us this month in the How to Harp membership as our special guest. We're going to be treated to a live concert and also a workshop. And so I wonder if you can give us just a little sneak peek of what we might expect. Is there anything that you know you're going to be playing in the concert? And what are you going to be teaching us in our workshop?
Okay, I'm going to set Len and I a challenge, and I just hope we can do it. I wrote my first ever song with lyrics, and I have been really, really scared of songwriting and putting lyrics out there because I have that feeling that every time you say, "I love this" or "I love that," somebody thinks, "Oh, she's in love," she's, or she's out of love, or whatever it is, and people will think that the song is about me. And so I wrote this song after a rehearsal with Len, where we'd been talking about some friends in North Carolina who have a moonshine shack at the back of their property. Yeah, a real moonshine shack. And it was a long story, but the upshot of it was when I left the rehearsal at Len's, I had a little riff in my head that turned into a song. And I'd been listening to a lot of Janice Ian and realised that she does quite a lot of repeated lyrics that just change a little bit as she goes along. And I had this repeated lyric, and by the time I'd driven the 4Ks from Len's place to my place, I had the chorus in my head, and I wrote it all down. And Len's wife Swago turned up about an hour later at my place, and when she came in, she had a look at my laptop, and I had on it all these tabs open that were about how do you make moonshine, what's the moonshine making process. Because I was collecting all the jargon from it to turn into my lyrics. And the conversation that had happened in North Carolina about their moonshine shack was around what else happened in moonshine shacks, about the community of men that gathered, and they weren't necessarily drinking, they were making it to be drunk, but they had great conversations and great connection and great community from sitting around watching the copper pipes do their things in the moonshine shack. So I've kind of mixed it up a little bit. It could be like, maybe something else naughty happens in the moonshine shack when nobody's there, maybe not, but it's not about me.
Noted. When we hear the moonshine song, we know that it is not about Anna. We'll take that note. Lovely. We'll look forward to hearing that. And how about in our workshop? What are we going to learn with you in the workshop?
You're going to work that, you're going to find out that sight reading is not that scary. That actually, if you work through it progressively and you're disciplined about it, it can be such a great way to investigate everything else that's out there that you might have thought was not really, that you just didn't know how to approach really. And that there's two different types of sight reading. There is the disciplined approach where you might need it for an exam or something like that, and then there's the using it for a fly by the seat of your pants experience where you want to open a new piece of music and just see, is this something that I'd like to play? And that's completely different from the disciplined exam technique. So, yeah, that's what you're going to learn.
Great. Well, we're really looking forward to that. That sounds absolutely fantastic. So, Anna, it's been amazing chatting to you. We are going to wrap things up, and I would like you to help us finish with your amazing words of wisdom and tell us, what's the one piece of advice you would give to our harp learning audience out there?
Practice is worth it. It is definitely worth it. It doesn't matter. Well, actually, it does matter. It matters how you do it, but it doesn't matter whether you decide to go for right-hand practice, left-hand practice, hands together practice, just 4 bars practice, play it an octave lower, play it an octave higher. Just practice it. Just do it and find some way to vary your practice to keep you interested and wanting to do more practice. Practice, practice, practice.
I like that advice. We are definitely going to repeat that one in the membership. I like that a lot. Anna, thank you so much for spending time with me today. It's been so lovely to catch up with you and listen to your stories and your projects. And I'm really looking forward to hearing you perform for us. And of course, learning the 2 different approaches to sight reading in our workshop. And so thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been lovely to chat with you.
A huge thank you to Anna for joining me in this episode of the How to Harp podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed our catch up and I really hope you guys enjoyed our chat too. Next week, I'm looking forward to sitting down with Angela, the other harp tutor in the How to Harp membership, to chat all things harp and learning and lots of good stuff. So I hope you guys will be listening along next week and we'll see you there.